Never to part. Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome, John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista, and welcome to the Counterparts show. Um, we're doing a very interesting thing today. We're going to cover a subject that I think a lot of people do cover, but we don't care because we haven't covered it, and we have our own takes on it, right? I mean, that's what makes things interesting. And we hope that if you're out there and you're watching and you have any opinions about the UFO phenomenon that's happening in the world, that you would join us because it's a great conversation. Why not? Let's just have some fun. All right, yeah. So, like I was saying, we do have a lot of people that actually do cover UFOs and alien stuff and abductions and things like that. Um, but it's something that I've never really talked about. I don't think you and I have ever talked about it. I mean, we talked about Star Trek, which takes place in space, but not
Yes.
necessarily about this subject. So we're gonna have some fun with that. We're first gonna do some work, and we're gonna do some love for our sponsors. So take it away, Jorge.
Thank you very much, sir. And by the way, I know a lot of people talk about this, but it's actually doesn't count unless we talk about it.
That's
Just,
that's a good point. I forgot about that. It says
just,
it right here on my card. I was
just
supposed to
remember
get
that.
that part.
Anyway, the Counterpart Show is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family-owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1985. Find out why Wellness Resources supplements are the top choice of health conscious individuals around the world, as well as myself. Check them out at myvitaminresource.com to check out all the supplements that they have. They have an amazing line of supplements. And if you enter the promo code Counterparts, you will get free shipping on your order. And not only that, on top of that, there's monthly specials every single month. And this month's special is 25% off their joint and repair supplements and 30% off their repair packs. So again, enter the promo code Counterparts when you go to myvitaminresource.com.
All right. So here we are, everyone. Yep, we're doing it. We
Wow.
are doing it. We are
We
actually
look
going
like
to talk.
aliens.
Yeah,
Look at our heads, they're so big.
that was before before we even decided to do this episode. I think we were hinting to everyone. Yes, we are aliens, and we're going to be covering our families. So, George,
Yes, sir.
we have a story. We have a story on this whole thing, or what they call it. We have an experience, right?
Yes.
We are part of one of those that have experienced this. George and I, and I'll tell some of the story, and you can
Yes.
tell your part in it. So George and I, we're cousins. We grew up together, and one day we were not young enough to not be able to observe, old enough to observe. I think George was maybe, I don't know, 17 maybe.
Yep.
I was probably like 20, maybe 20, 21. So we weren't kids, of course in today's world, it depends. I mean, back then, we weren't kids. um, Today, like 25-year-olds are like, I'm just a kid,
That's
which
true.
technically, there's a lot of life ahead of you. So, I do kind of feel that a 25-year-old should be a little bit more, understanding that they have a long way ahead of them, that they shouldn't really know what their future is, that they should actually be able to spend more time enjoying themselves instead of trying to impress others. Okay, so we were young and we were in the, that was a huge digression. So we were in the backyard, right? And we were playing wiffle ball, which is what we did which again, we weren't kids, but we like to play wiffle ball. As a matter of fact, if George and I lived near, we would be in the backyard today playing wiffle
Playing
ball
wiffle ball.
because it is fun, and we take care of ourselves physically, and we can still kind of swing a bat.
Yes.
So we're hanging out back there, and I saw something in the sky. Right, that's how the
Yeah.
story always starts. Didn't know exactly what it was, but I looked up in the sky and I saw something like blinking. But I did. I looked up in the sky and I saw something like blinking, and it was just like an aluminum metal thing straight up. And now it's daytime. It's not night. It's
Yes.
daytime.
Right. Exactly.
And we're looking at it, and I'm like, oh, what is that? Is that like a? And George at first looks at it, and he's like, oh, he's like, I don't know. It's like a. Wait, what is that? I said,
I was gonna say weather balloon, but
right. Like that's a and then you were like, wait, what is that? And I was like, I have no idea. So we're staring at it, and then what happened?
If I remember correctly, it moved.
And how?
And like,
Right.
like we looked at each other like,
We went.
did you see that?
Did you see that? Like, what the hell? We went upstairs and we told everybody. Of course, nobody believed us.
No, of course not.
Till this day. But yeah, we had that experience, and I remember there was just, the thing about it is that we did see it,
Yes.
and I couldn't explain it, and I guess that's the idea of what a UFO is, unidentified flying object, or a UAP, right, which is a unidentified anomalous phenomena or aerial phenomena. You had to change
politically
it because,
correct.
Yeah, because yeah, exactly.
You don't want to offend the aliens.
No, we don't want to offend them. They come down here. How dare you call us on a we are
It's about inclusion, John.
Why do we always think that aliens talk that way?
I don't know.
Down, they're like, hello, take us to your leader. We are right. What if they come down and go, hey, yo, man, what's up? Listen, we just got here. I like what you guys are doing here and stuff, but who runs the place? Like, can you guys take me?
Half the people I know are aliens.
Right. Like, why couldn't they just have normal voices? Right? They have mouth. They always say they have like small mouths, so I could see that maybe they don't project a lot of sound, but there's got to be something come out of their mouth that, hey guys, listen, how you guys doing? Yeah, we're parked right there. Is it okay if we leave it there? Because we don't want to offend anyone. Is there valet? So I mean, But so anyway, that happened to us, and we did see something, and it was really interesting. And now George and I are Star Trek, right? We're Trekkies or Trekkers, whatever you want to call it. So we always love space, and we love space stuff, and not just Star Trek, but there's Star Wars, and there's Battlestar Galactica, and there's what other alien shows? Bob Ross and
X-Files,
Sesame Street, all the things that we felt were always alien. We love anything that has to do with being in space, because Bob Ross was always in. I love Bob Ross, but he was always like, oh yeah. So anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, first of all, I've always been open to the subject of the alien thing, or let's not say the UFO thing. I've always been open to it. I mean, even when we saw that, but I've always said to myself, why not? Why,
right.
Why wouldn't there be stuff out there? You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure in this universe, there's things that, we know that we can't explain. So, we've always, and you and I, we've chatted about it here and there, but we never really gotten deep into it like we're going to do today. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. And it is sort of, it is just like Earth to be so arrogant as to think that we're it. And, it's sort of a weird. I was thinking about this today, as a matter of fact. I think about weird things by myself, and I write them down so I can talk about them later. But I was thinking about land. Like how arrogant are we as a species to just say, this is my land here. Right. And I own this land, right? The land was here already. It was part of the planet. And not only that, but now we also have the idea that you can't go to that piece of dirt on that side without getting a piece of paper that gets stamped and says that it's okay for you to go to that piece of land on the same surface of this thing.
True.
And people have fought and died. Millions of people throughout history have died fighting for the dirt.
Right.
fighting for the dirt, and it makes you wonder if aliens are up there and they are so advanced that they're looking down. Why would they want to come here?
True.
Why would they want? What are they going to get by coming down here? What are they going to learn? You know, maybe they'll learn the banjo. Maybe they'll learn how to make pizza. But what the hell are they going to really learn by coming down here? They're not going to really advance their own race, which is probably important to them considering they've been around for a lot longer. But they
Right.
look at us sort of like we look at an anthill or something. You know, it's like anthills are fascinating the way they build it and the way they have teamwork and the way they operate and stuff like that. You know,
Right.
but they also have, you know, there's also things going on in there. There's violence in anthills and
Of course.
um, you know, suppressive ants. I'm sure they exist. Some ant that's like, yeah, you know what Tommy said about you? No, he said you can't lift nothing. He said you can't lift 10 times your weight. So,
But do you think it's wouldn't you think it's pure curiosity
well,
of
humanity is pure
I mean, we're
curiosity, right?
right. We're all curious, right? Why are we going to Mars eventually? Why do we go to the moon? Why do we? Well, if we think that we went to the moon, that's a whole nother show. But I'm just
We'll
saying that
cover that later.
let's just say that we went to the moon and we're going to go to Mars and stuff like that, right? It's curiosity. You want to see what's out there, right?
Right.
So,
Well, you also look at the idea of the oceans, right? Like our
mhm,
oceans have not even been, you know, I think 5%. We know what's 5% underneath the oceans of the whole
right,
planet, and most of the planet they say it's water, right?
right,
We don't know because I've never explored the planet to say that. You know, that's another thing that we're taking a lot of things for granted, you know, or we're taking it as face value, right? We're
right.
just people are just saying these things, and then we're saying like, oh yeah,
It's
the
the
Earth,
consensus.
right? The Earth is mostly water. Well, is it, or are there sections of the Earth that we don't want anyone to know? Like for instance, I was watching a podcast today, and they were talking or listening to a podcast, and they were talking about the Pacific Ocean between America and all the way down to like when you get to Australia. You know
Mhm,
how massive that space is. It's bigger than all those countries put together.
right.
That space in there. You telling me there's no islands in there or other things in there? Now, because when you fly across there, you know you're flying. You're at 40,000 feet. You can't see down there. So
Right.
commercial airlines, well, they'll take you to Australia, but
Mhm,
what if there's islands and a whole bunch of other things in there? You know, what I mean that to me is fascinating because we're looking at, you know, Elon going to space and Amazon guy going to space and all these guys going to space. How about exploring a little bit about what we got here on the planet? You know what I
Agreed.
mean? That to
Agree.
me is interesting because
Agree.
all they have right now on space is really low quality. And I'm going to talk about that too, actually. But anyway, you have something?
Low qual. Oh, but
No, I was
you're.
low quality footage,
Oh yes, yes.
which I go ahead.
But it's interesting.
It's interesting, but why is it so low quality? I can
Well,
buy a camera right now for my door that gives me crystal clear views of the whole front door of my house, the whole front, everything. You can see everything in the front clearly. Not only that, it has sound.
right,
I can actually talk through the thing and talk to people that are at my door,
right,
right?
right.
So you're telling me that, and I'm gonna go both ways on this. I'm gonna go. I believe and I don't believe, right?
Okay.
Just to have some fun. But you're gonna tell me that with so many people with camera phones right now, amazing quality phone. The iPhone is the camera. People make films out of the damn thing, right? With using the
Mhm,
camera phone.
mhm.
Um, that all we got is this blurry kind of thing that people are now trying to decipher. People the 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 people the Navy, the fighters, the Air Force,
Mhm.
their devices, they can't put like a better quality camera on these things. That every time you see them, it's just like, or you see the little dot here going. This is the recent stuff. I'm like, Come on,
Right, right,
guys,
right.
get with the program. You can install a camera.
Well, I mean, I've never really thought about that. It's
Good.
interesting. That's that, but
That's what
that's
I
why
want.
we're here, right?
That's why we're here, because I want to
To make
actually
people
pose
think.
these things, and I want people to comment. If anybody's listening, I want y'all to let me know what you think.
No, it's interesting. It is. I agree. I agree. But and I understand what you're saying about exploring our planet. Yes, you're right. You're right. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we still don't know about our own planet, and we don't put the resources to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
because seems to be a sexier thing in the grand scheme of things, right? Mars is I mean, think about it. What was the space race that happened, right? The moon was the place to go, right? And who knows why they really wanted to go to the moon. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's a control thing. Whoever
yeah,
gets there first has more control, has
of
more.
course it was. Yeah,
It's
it was
always that.
it's all perception. Well, it's just, you really probably think about it, it's the same thing that's going to be, for Mars. Who has the ability to go to Mars, who has more control, who has more, whatever the case may be.
Right. And who even wants to go to Mars? Have you seen pictures of Mars? They ain't none up there.
You know,
It's like, why are you racing to go up there? I mean, why don't you just make a nice place down here? Why don't you? You can't you have a nice life down here? You have to go all the way up there. It just makes no sense. This in tremendous interest. Like, I understand that. You know, the exploration, right?
yes,
Because we're explorers by nature, right? We
right,
we
yes,
constantly want to explore and see what is there that we have not seen yet.
right.
So I understand that part of it. So in that respect, I respect it. And you guys,
Mhm.
want to go into space. That's all good. That's all good. But there just seems to be so much passion on going to Mars, and really not a lot of understanding of why.
Well, here's a theory that I have, because apparently, right, we kind of know about, the Pentagon and the United States has kind of admitted now that there's things flying around. We have no idea how they were made, but apparently that's been going on for what, for
Thousands of years.
let's been going on for thousands of years. But let's just break it down to more modern society. Let's just say it's been going on since, let's just say, since 1947, right, or 1940s, when, right, the Roswell thing and all that stuff, right? So if you think about it, if the government really was nervous about that and said, you know what, there is stuff out there, and obviously, we're gonna cover it up and, tell everybody else that they're crazy. I mean, not like the government would actually cover something up and tell everybody that they're crazy and suppress stuff. I
No,
mean, come
no,
on,
no. They would
government would
never
never
do
do
that.
that.
No,
But
no,
let's
they
just say,
protect us.
they did. Okay, then you would think, well, wait a minute, maybe we should explore space, because there's things flying around that we don't know about. We need to know what these things are,
Right,
where they came from, and do they pose a threat to us as a society.
right.
And
Now,
and I would think that would be a motivation to kind of see what's out there.
it's true, but we also don't know if they are doing that and they're just trying to not let the public know, because let's face it, you can fear a society into doing anything, and if they
Right.
get really nervous, I mean, you can see the War of the Worlds with Orson Welles.
Mhm.
What happened there? People were running in the streets
Right.
screaming, thinking that they were really being attacked by aliens. Now,
Right.
this was obviously in the 30s,
Right.
and no one is that gullible now. But I also would say, what is the benefit of what is two things? What is the benefit of them telling everyone? What is the benefit of them withholding? What would benefit them the most?
Well, the
Because
benefit
that's what
of
they want, right? At the end of the day, they're going to always do what helps them the most, either financially or control or power or whatever it
well,
is.
yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I think that, okay, so if you look at the benefit of withholding, I would say, just kind of putting my thinking cap on as a government official, I would say that number one, you don't want to make society think that you have no idea what's going on, or how to control it. Okay.
Correct.
Because then the perception is If my government has no idea what this is and how to control it, then I'm vulnerable. We're
Right.
all vulnerable, right?
And then
So
we might
that's
distrust the government.
correct. And then there might be a distrust of the government. I mean, who would
We
distrust
can't
the
have
government?
that.
Right? You can't have that. But so to me now, here's the other thing. So when you look at the other way, why would they say it and why would they admit it? Well, the government usually admits something when there's so much evidence of it, in my opinion anyway, that they have no choice.
Correct.
Okay, so it comes a point where there's so many people investigating, and especially nowadays. It was different 50 years ago when we didn't have all this, right?
Right.
But now everybody is a photographer. Everybody sees everything.
There's enough stuff.
There's enough stuff out there. So eventually it's going to come a point where there's something's going to happen, or something could happen, and then when you find out that the government really knew what was going on, and then you say, well, the government knew about this and never told us. If something crashes in my house,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So then there's that piece of it as well.
Yeah. So I mean, the fearing society is one. Putting fear into them, and not being able to show confidence as a government.
Correct.
That's also a really important thing. The benefit of telling everyone would also create a lot of things. Well, let's just say like religion, for instance, would also there'll also be issues on there, because then you're saying that the earth was not created in 7 days.
Right.
Or as George Burns said in the film God, oh God, he said, no, I actually created it in 6 days and I rested. No, I created it in 1 day and I something like that. And he rested like the rest of the time. But so that would actually go into that as well. Remember, God created the earth. Right. And that is part of
heavens and the earth.
The heavens
Isn't
and
it
the
heavens
earth.
and the earth, right?
Correct. But it's also within a confine, right? They called it it says the heavens and the earth within a certain area. So it's not saying heavens, meaning that the heavens continue and that they're massive. He created our heavens.
So wait a minute. Okay. So there's an actual there's an actual area. So he says, okay, so we don't go beyond the thermosphere or whatever, where it is.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a religious guy, so I couldn't tell you. But I mean, to me, heavens could mean anything in my, and I understand that it could rock the bedrock of religion, especially for the religious folks who think that this. I mean, I had this discussion with my brother-in-law the other day, who's he's a very church-going guy. He's he was studying to be a minister and all this and that type of thing, and we were chatting about it. Just we do that. We're very cool about it. But I was saying, why couldn't, if you say that God created the heavens and the earth, why couldn't that have expanded to everything else? Why couldn't have God created the universe?
Correct. I mean,
why couldn't have God created the little things that are running around today? Why couldn't they have been created by God?
True. I mean, it says here, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, and it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. So he divided the light from the darkness. So we had daytime, we had nighttime. Right. So it goes into a lot of again, interpretation has a lot to do with this as well, right? So people will read it differently and have different opinions on it, but if you want to go back again and look at spirituality for a second, if you look South American countries like Peru, Bolivia, the Inca culture, they all have it within their spirituality, the gods from the heavens. They have it in their scriptures, in their written form. It says these men came from the heavens and they landed and they
Right.
gave us these technologies and powers, and they gave us food, and they showed us how to, and it's all written in, and that's why it's a lot more it's a lot more accepted in countries like Peru and
Yes.
Bolivia, than anywhere else. So all the
Right.
South American countries really are okay with it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
I think the biggest thing that occurred recently was Japan, because
Mhm.
Japan has always been like, oh no, oh no, we're not gonna do that. There is nothing out there. We're not. And for a long, long time, Japan just did not ever acknowledge that. And
Mhm.
recently, the I think it was in 2020, the defense minister actually did put out a report and told their pilots, because for a long time they were told, if you see something, you keep your mouth shut,
Right.
you don't say
Right.
nothing. But
Right.
in 2020, the defense minister said, if you see something, record it and report it.
Right.
First time ever. So
Right.
now Japan is actually in with the game, which is kind of like a bigger deal than people. I think that people don't really, maybe don't realize how big that is, but that is a pretty big thing, because Japan was always on the other side.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mean, how long was the United States on that side? I mean, it's even if you look at it, it was only till recently. I mean, it was 2017, right, or 2017 to 19 that the United States actually admitted that there was unidentified aerial phenomenon even floating around. Okay,
Right,
because their pilots were seeing it constantly,
right,
and their pilots. I mean, there was a discussion with one of the pilots, an interview, where they were doing training exercises, and his off the off the ship, which was I think the USS Nimitz, right, in 2004, and he was saying we're doing all these training exercises, and then these things running around out there, and the
what is going
his
on?
his commanding, and this video we can show the video of it, but his commanding officer told him, okay, you can engage with that thing to find out what it is. And he engaged with it, and he actually
It's like,
got close to it. Hey guys.
hi,
and and
my
the
name is
thing
Tony. What's your name? My name is Tony. I like your ship. It's got a nice. Why are you pointing that at me? Sorry.
okay, and the shit, and the little thing,
Yeah.
realized it, and then dropped. Okay, kind of like what you and I observed,
It's got
right,
a
that day when we were
yeah.
hanging out. Okay, and then they have recordings of the pilots seeing all these things. Okay, I mean,
Yeah, that's
again, there's so much evidence. You're gonna have to come out with it at some point.
right. Now, here's another thing. We all know that there are individuals on the planet who control certain things that we don't even know who they are. We all see in the news that it's all a game. These are all actors and stuff, and we're all upset with these people that are in the news, and oh, the left and the right, and they're all going at it and stuff, and it's all cute. But somebody is really pulling the strings, and doing stuff. So my think on this is, can it be ourselves, our technology being so advanced that we're not even aware? Because when you have money, you can take 100 of the best scientists or minds and pay them a lot of money and put them into buildings and have them work out stuff and have them really create amazing technologies like waffle makers and I'm just kidding. But like really important things that we have today that we didn't have a long time ago, right? So when you have money, you can do that. So how do we know that they have not created? So, and it seems like every, I don't know, 10 years or something, we get a little further. Like technology goes a little bit faster and a little bit faster. And the last 20 years, I mean, what we're doing right now was not around 20 years ago, not even 15 years ago. This, I'm talking right now from Nashville, and you're listening and you're hearing me instantaneously all the way in upstate New York. This does not exist. It did not exist. As a matter of fact, I would bet to say that this type of thing for people like us, like the commoners, didn't exist even 10 years ago at this quality.
Right.
Maybe a rough kind of thing, 10 years ago. But I find that pretty amazing.
But
And I
then,
think that there's other things going on.
okay, but then why? Here's my question for that. Why would the U.S. government say, and they actually said, that we have no idea what these are, we have no idea where they were made, and we think this may be a threat to national security, which means that the US government had nothing to do with it. That means that there is an organization and there is something else other than the government, the most powerful government in the world, that has probably the best technology in the world, that has far advanced technology than we do, some business or organization, and is using it, and the government has no idea about it.
Do you actually, don't you think that if you have just regular folks that are billionaires and control a tremendous amount of the earth, I'm talking about people that are unnamed, you know what I mean?
Right.
That first of all, let's go back to history for a second. If you remember correctly, we're looking at Vanderbilt, we're looking at Carnegie or Carnegie. They actually, Rockefeller, but like at one point, Carnegie had to lend money to the government. Okay, because the government first of all, the government is always had an issue with trying to pay for stuff, and then they always screw up something, and then they lose money, and they're like, I don't know what happened. My wallet was right here, and they just lose everything. So Carnegie had to actually lend them money to keep things going, right?
Right.
Let's go another thing with the mob. Let's talk about the mafia for a second.
Went from UFOs to the mafia.
Yeah, no, but this is just to give you a reference of how the government can be easily controlled by an outside entity. Okay, now Lucky Luciano, who was the head of the five, who kind of put the families together, right? He was the guy who organized the five families, the big five families. He was the first one that said, let's not kill each other. Let's just have our territories and let's work together and do this, right? He was in jail, right? He was in jail. And while he was in jail, they had to call him because they needed help. They needed help from him, so he can call his guys in. This was happening in Italy during the war. They needed for him to actually call his guys and report, say, all right, we're going to help America. You guys don't do what you're doing. Let's do this thing. So he's in jail. While he's doing this, this is one man from the mafia in prison. Still, the government had to call him for control. So my think on it is that there are entities, there are groups, we don't know about them, but they are way, way more powerful than any government on this planet. And our government is their job to control. We're gonna probably get killed after this episode. Whatever happened to George and John? Didn't they have like a show or something? They anyway, they actually control. The government has to put the programs in place to keep society running, to keep society thinking that their vote matters, right? And then when you say, oh, by the way, there's things in space, we don't know what they are, it puts a whole other fear into people, and then you're more likely to give away your freedom for safety, which is what happens. We've seen it happening not long ago. I'm not going into that subject, but we've seen it happening, that people will give up their freedom for safety.
That doesn't sound like the US. Come on.
for safety, and it happens across the globe.
Well, okay, John, but now you're absolutely right. I completely agree that there are entities out there that are controlling. There's a lot of control, and it's by very few. Okay, it's very few. It's very few. I mean, honestly, the government,
Tony,
the
Jerry,
government officials are at best middlemen. in this whole thing.
Oh,
Middlemen at
100%.
best. Okay. Now, I completely agree with that. However, explain this to me, John. Riddle me this. This technology clearly existed in the 1940s and 50s, and maybe even before that.
Right.
So you're telling me that these people had this technology back then, because there were people flying around back then as well.
Zorro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Zorro, yes. So you're telling me that that technology, that the United States or whoever runs things around here had that technology back in the 40s?
Well, here's the thing. It goes way back, because we talked about South America, we talked about the Incas. It's all in their text. That's a long time ago, right? A long time ago, all that stuff. As a matter of fact, if you go into the pyramids and you look at some of the hieroglyphics,
they have saucers.
You see them pointing up at big giant discs and space
Right.
things, and there's all this stuff in the air that there should be nothing in the air at that point, right? But again, the arrogance of today's society to think that back then, because it was so long ago, that they were primitive, that they had no technology. No, they were probably very advanced, and something happened. We don't know what happened, but something happened, right? So we know that this is thousands and thousands of years old of this movement, or at least documented in that way. Right. Now, the pyramids are the pyramids. People said carbon dating. Well, this is how old they are. I don't know how to carbon date. So any group of scientists could say, oh, we found carbon dating. What is it? Well, we take a piece of thing and we press it and we go like this, and it tells us exactly how old it was, or approximately by a couple of weeks, Right. Well, I don't have that technology. You don't have that technology. So we have to take their word for it that carbon dating is an actual thing. The pyramids could have been built in the 20s. I don't know. Maybe I don't know who built the pyramids, because that's another whole conversation, right? Because we can't build them today.
Correct.
Right? We can't build that today.
Right.
We don't have. It'll take 100 years, and we don't even have the technology to lift any of these things in place. And some of the stones. Okay, that's another conversation. But anyway, so I think, again, and this is what I truly believe, that what occurred, and this is going to sound crazy. And
what? You, John? That doesn't sound like you.
No, that the governments have already been visited, and they've been here. The technology. If you look at a certain era of time from 1947, when that thing crashed,
there was a huge, everything accelerated.
Technology. Yes. For instance, like microwaves. Who was experimenting? I would love to see the scientists that was experimenting with microwaves back in the 20s and 30s, to then have the discovery in 1948, 1950, when microwaves, in 1960s. I would like to see who was. Show me the guy. No, it just suddenly, like, GE just had a microwave.
Right.
I want to know the scientist. Who was the scientist that started the microwaves? Was it Tesla? Was that?
I'm sure we can Google that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It could be. How long was that experimenting going on? Where was it documented? I'm sure they could come up and say, oh, Roger Thompson discovered the microwave. Okay, well, how long was he researching it? Well, he was in his, a long time. Well, where's the research? Who else was involved in this in the world? Because microwaves showed up everywhere.
Right.
So were there other scientists in the world working on this at the same time? Did they work together?
Listen, it's not. It's absolutely plausible, and I completely agree that. I'm not going to say it could have been 1947. It could have been that time, because, like you said, there is a timeline where it all of a sudden shoots up and technology goes off the rails. Okay, and that is a plausible thing, but because if that was the case, and if they were visited in, let's just say, 1947, and let's just say that was the big one, right? So why wouldn't it be that it does not happen over and over, that we are being visited by things that similar things that happened in 1940? The stealth bomber could have come out of that. Okay.
Correct.
But I don't believe, and this is just me, I I find it hard to believe that we have the technology to that point. Anybody on this planet, forget about what, the government, that has the technology to that point that makes aircrafts defy the laws of physics at this time.
Here we go again. The laws of physics were discovered by scientists.
Of course
They
they were.
told us that this is gravity, right? And it's
Yeah.
because the earth is spinning, right? And things are being pulled towards the earth,
Right.
right? I don't have a gravity meter. I don't have anything to show me, to prove to me that gravity exists, other than the fact that I do this and it falls.
Okay, so let me ask you this: if that was the case, and if let's say there's these entities, these companies, or whatever, these people that are making these things, so, and they've been clearly doing this for many, many, many years.
A long time.
Okay, and to what end? Because all they do is fly around. They don't do anything.
Right.
They just
Well, it's always going to be, the bottom line is always going to be control. It's always going to be getting people to succumb. Now, ultimately, they're just really boring, because, I mean, it's like you can do some. It's so boring that you just want to take over the world and just control everything. You know what I mean? It's like you're just a boring individual. You're a boring entity. You could do such great things, but that's what you choose to do. Fine, but it is that, and I do think that it's been a long time going, and that if we are being visited, which I do believe that there are other things visiting this realm. I do know that there could be, and people have spoken about it, not officials or scientists, but people that are just individuals, about other dimensions and other worlds, and
right.
Einstein's theories and stuff like that. Again, Einstein wrote all these things, and people just took it like it was like the it was, I think it was disproven, the whole
Theory of
evil.
relativity.
Yeah, I think that was
Something.
disproven at some point, or at least partially. Which but okay, how? Why do we even know that? Why do we ever even take that as face value anyway? You know what I mean? This is the craziness that I get, that I feel, because it's like, whenever a group of scientists or people that have studied something for a very, very long time, they come out and they report something, the group, like you said, the group consensus is, this must be true, because 15 scientists got in a room and said it was true. It goes for a lot of other things that I'm not going to mention on the show.
Well,
That,
there's a ton of consensus throughout history that have turned out to be not true. Tons of them, many of them, in all industries. Okay, and I could dare say that more than half of them turned out to be not true. Right? I mean, there's it's just
almost every day something gets
exactly, because
proven.
because you always find out that no, there's another way. So what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, to me, again, and you talk about going back to the arrogance of humanity, to me, that it just, and maybe it's just my way of thinking, I just find it scientifically implausible that this is the only place that life exists.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That, and people have that theory, right? This
If
many people saying, well, why would there be life anywhere else? Well, why not? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
And then you have the side that says, if space is real. Have you been to space?
I have not.
I haven't been to space. Few people have been to space. Very few people have been to
Right.
space. Now,
Right.
people have gone, weightless, out in the atmosphere, high above.
Right.
But space, I don't know. Now, of course, we have the moon landing. They went into space. So they went to
Right.
space. Right?
And Buzz Aldrin, by the way, admits he saw a UFO out there.
He did. He saw, actually, yeah, him and a few others
Yes.
came forward and said,
Yep.
not just, I don't mean from those guys, from the Apollo guys, but other astronauts
Hmm.
that
Right.
have been up there, have seen
Right.
things, So there are things going on in
Yes.
space, right?
Yes.
But here's the thing that a lot of people are getting a little bit concerned with is that the flat Earth people have made points that I'm not a flat earther at all. I don't believe it, but they make points that kind of open up my mind to ask different questions now, because like space is real only because we've been told it's real. We've seen pictures. We saw the moon landing. We saw people driving cars in space. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, there was perfect audio from space to the moon.
Right.
Incredible.
Right.
Because sometimes my Wi-Fi kind of glitches here
Right.
today in 2023, but somehow they had tremendous video,
Right.
live feed video, and it was perfect. We're just setting up for our next show. And it was perfect.
Right.
So now the question is space real? How do we, you and I, know that space is real? Because the people that go to space are people that have a gazillion dollars,
Hmm.
and people that are in government or government agencies, NASA, Russia's space program, which is probably one of the best, in the world still to this
Right.
day, um, and all these other countries that are now getting in. They have to have a lot of money. So
Right.
who cannot go to space? Who cannot know the truth? It's really everyone else.
Right.
Really just everyone else. You know what I mean? Like, so the questions are much deeper than that. I mean, like what we're seeing is something that either is out of this world and doesn't really want to interact with us, in the sense that, because if they really wanted to interact with us, you land in the White House, you open the door, you do the just like we watch in the films, you come on out and you say, we come in peace, or pew, 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 and you
Right.
whatever's going to happen would have happened a
Right.
long time ago. But for some reason, they're not landing, they're not interacting on an everyday basis. Why not? If they're
What?
so more powerful than
But
we are.
but see, you're assuming that they are more powerful. Okay. Okay. Maybe they have powerful technology, but we're assuming. Okay. If
They
they're
just have
what
little
if
tiny guns.
no? But what I what
Ah,
I'm saying is, okay, it's a couple of guys in a disc, and they're looking around. They're saying, if we land
a
on this
couple of
planet,
guys in the disc.
a couple of guys in a disc
Like,
smoking,
hey,
whatever.
Rory,
But if
check out
they,
this place.
because you got to think about, okay, from their perspective, if I land on this place, seeing that these guys have nuclear weapons and all this, they're going to probably try to bombard us. We don't know these people. They're like savages compared to us. They'll probably try to kill us as soon as we get there. Why would they want to land here?
Right. Well, that's right. This is my point. They wouldn't want to land here, but if they've ever interacted with anyone, if okay, let's think like aliens for a second, right?
I'm trying to.
Yeah. So let's think like an alien, right? And like you said, three guys in a disc, and they're flying around, and they
Right.
come through, and they say, "Hey, what's that right on there?" Oh, I don't know. And they're not gonna say Earth, because obviously we named the planet, and Earth
Right.
is just means dirt, right?
Right.
So this is all we are. It's just dirt. He goes, "Oh yeah, I don't know. It's just a bunch of dirt surrounded by this blue liquid, right?"
Right.
Okay. Oh, there are things moving around down there. They're actual things. So it's a civilization of some sort. There's things
Right.
moving,
Right.
right? And we're seeing individual bodies moving, and they're moving in vehicles through different
Right.
places, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, let's go down now. The purpose of an alien. What would the alien want? What would an alien want?
Well,
What
again,
food,
going back, that's the well,
water,
no,
if
no,
they
the
need it?
same, go back to the same premise that I said earlier. Why are we going to the moon? Why do we want to go to Mars? Right? We want to explore. We want to see. That's curiosity,
Right.
right? Okay, there's that, because if there's a civilization on Mars that is more primitive than us, then we're the aliens if we go to Mars.
Right. We're the ones with the
Okay.
high level technology.
Exactly. And they're going to look at us like, holy cow, there's these things flying around here, or somebody just trying to land on. They have a rover that has landed that has amazing technology.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that they have all this technology. These guys, so we're going to be, and they're going to ask the same question. Why are these guys here? What are they looking for? Right.
Right. But I mean, again, even an explorer, if you look at like Elon Musk, why does he want to go to Mars? They
'Cause he
all have
can.
a purpose, huh?
Right. Because he can.
Right, because he can. He has the money. His
Right.
family probably lives there. No, I'm just kidding. But like, he probably wants. He says he wants to colonate. Right. He
Right.
wants to
Right.
colonize.
Colonize.
Colonize the planet. Right.
Mhm.
And so he wants to create something there,
Sure.
so people could eventually live there.
Right.
Right. In Total Recall, if you remember, no, in Total Recall, remember the Mars was at one point.
Was there's a whole colony on Mars? Yes.
Yeah, and it was also an it had a machine that they turned off, but you can turn it on, and it
Right.
actually shoots up into the sky and creates an atmosphere that people can actually breathe.
Right.
Right. Now, we talk about creating an atmosphere. Creating an atmosphere is not really that difficult.
How many times have you done it?
A bunch of times, trillions of times through my.
It's all that hot air that comes out of you.
Scientifically, if you want to talk about science, right, that actually has been proven. If you have gold
Right.
dust sprinkled into the air, the sun flashing on it creates actually like an atmosphere, and you can create rain clouds. You can create.
But who said that? The consensus said that?
No, that's been done. You actually,
Okay.
that's something you actually can see. You can go on YouTube and actually see people doing it.
But you
even in
can't
their
see,
homes.
but you can't see space.
You cannot see space.
Okay. So
the fact that
what
that
you're
can happen
saying
doesn't mean anything.
right, but so you're saying that, okay, all the fuzzy pictures and all that stuff that we get from the space station and all that stuff, that's not real. Well, you could say that about anything.
I could say that about anything.
This
is not real right here.
Right.
I
But
can
what
tell
I'm saying
right
that
now, I'm in my.
But yeah, I mean, again, you can say that about all things that people in this civilization today believe,
Right.
and they have a consensus that they believe, but that they can't see.
Correct.
But yet they say is real.
Right. But we have one thing that we can see and those are the elements.
Right.
Right. We have the elements. The elements are on the earth. You and I can go and get, maybe not all the elements because some of them are dangerous, but we can get some of the elements.
Right.
And we can put things together. So there are certain elements that you can actually visually see working together to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You can, that through even vitamins.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
There's certain vitamins that
elements,
you can
yes.
put together, work together. Right. Those are the elements in quantities to make the body do better. Right. So we know that there is a science of the elements coming together to create certain things. So if you do put a couple of these together, you can create an atmosphere theoretically if you put these things together in large quantities, like Elon Musk quantity, like rocket ships, 100 rocket ships blowing up in the sky at the same time simultaneously to create it. It's got to be some ridiculous kind of a technology thing, right? That I don't even understand. But I do know that if those chemicals come together, it can create something. So in Elon Musk's estimation, he wants to colonize Mars.
Right.
So there is a reason for his exploration.
Right.
It's not just to go out in space. Now, Star Trek, as we both love, is their mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man's gone before. So those things are obviously part of the exploration part, the going out and, Lewis and Clark part, Marco Polo, Christopher Columbus, those guys, they go out and they have no idea what they're going to run into. They find places that have people already, kill them all and say, I'm just kidding. But, they go to places, they they discover a place, even though there were people there or whatever. I'm not going into that, but they for themselves and for
Right.
their discovery. So there's a purpose. Three guys flying in a ship have a purpose too.
Of course they do.
Maybe they're exploring. Why would three of them just be exploring? You know, uh, I don't know. You know, maybe they Zod and the other two are just out there and choked. I don't know.
But the fact that according to a lot of everyone who has seen these things, whether it's a pilot or whether it's just the average person like you and I or the people, you see all these different ones. Okay, there obviously there's some that were doctored and all that. We get that and stuff, but there is actual stuff out there that people have seen that they cannot explain. As a matter of fact, since 2000, there was 144. There was a record of 144 major incidents regarding UFOs, and 143 of them are still not explained.
Wow.
To this day. Okay, that's an actual statistic that's out there. So my thing is, there's a lot of different ones. It's not like, okay, so for example, we have different cars, right? Well, somebody drives in a Jeep, somebody drives in a Honda, there's different cars. Well, we have all different types of things that are floating around out there. So that
that's a good point, actually.
And they're probably coming from different places.
That's a good point, because it could be just somebody, hey, you want to get in? I just got this new thing. Why don't we go check out that area over there? We haven't been there yet.
Yeah.
Or they visit here all the time and enjoy certain things from here.
True.
Like
True.
They enjoy the ice cream.
Yeah.
And they
I think, or there's so many ways you can go with it.
Yeah.
People talk about UFOs in a more spiritual way.
Right.
They say, some people have said that those are, if you want to look at religion or spirituality or whatever, there's some kind of angel sent from somewhere or whatever. The case
I mean, the Incas and a lot of the religions in Peru and Bolivia have that. That's what
Correct.
they believe also. And there's also a lot of Native Americans that talk about the gods.
Yes.
From the heavens that came down and gave certain technologies and certain things,
Exactly.
But I mean, it wouldn't, but I like the idea of thinking that it's not like, because you're right, and that's my lack of opening up in the idea of thinking that, because we're all like a country goes into space or a group of people go, but their technology could be so advanced that three guys just have a ship, and they've had ships for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They've been flying around space without any question. So they can just be flying by. They can come in, they can leave, they can go. Yeah. So that, I like that idea of three guys just flying in and being like,
I don't know why it's three guys, but
I can't believe they got 32 flavors. Unbelievable. And that could be something that I can go with that idea. Because it's not like they're going to come down on the side of the ship is going to be the name of their planet or their country with their flag.
Right.
You know
exactly.
what I mean? It's just not that. It's just, it could be so advanced that they all have their own ships that can fly in and out of anywhere they want.
Yes, they could become. I mean, yeah, you're right. They could become coming from this whole United Federation of planets that exist in another galaxy, and they're all coming from different places or whatever the case. I mean, we don't know, so or maybe
don't give away too much.
Sorry.
Yeah, but you're right. You're right, and there is that idea that people can get together and create something on their own if they have the resources.
Right.
Now, on this planet, it's money. Elon Musk has a lot of money, so he has the resources to put together a rocket to go to space and to do all these things. On other planets, maybe the resources are it's like you and I having cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has a cell phone. It's a technology, but it's not so incredible that somebody can't have a cell phone.
Right.
That might be their technology flying around through space. It's just like, it's not a big deal. They probably also say, don't go over there. There ain't nothing over there. They're just killing each other on that little.
Right. What's interesting, there was a story about a gentleman who who was in 1960, whatever, I don't remember what it was, during the height of the Cold War. He was the guy responsible for literally pushing the button. And
Yes.
I mean, literally, it was like the bat phone or the red phone was there, and if the phone rang, that was the
I
phone call.
wonder if anyone ever just pranked him and just called him.
Imagine that. Kidding.
Wait a second. Hello, gotcha.
Like, hello, did you order the pizza? No.
Yeah. You want anchovies? No, I just don't call. Don't use this line. What are you doing?
But anyway, he was the guy, and he always said and they were interviewing him. He was in his 70s or 80s at this point when they interviewed him, and he said, I always prayed that phone would never ring. Right? One day the phone rings, so his heart just went out of his chest. He picks it up. There's one of his guys because he was in charge of this whole platoon of people. One of his guys on the outside was screaming, "There's something above." Above the base, there's something above. There's this glowing thing, whatever. And he's like, calm down. He's trying to calm the guy down. But as he's calming the guy down, this is what's crazy.
How'd you get this number?
Yeah. All of the silos shut down.
Ooh.
They all shut down. Now he freaks out. And they all run outside and they look, and sure enough, there's glowing lights in the sky, and they're all seeing this. A whole bunch of them seeing this on top of where all the silos are, and all the silos shut down. And then eventually it disappears.
Wow.
And then they were able to put the silos back up. Now, in his estimation, when they ask him what did he think was the ultimate thing, he says that they know, in his mind, they know that we have nuclear weapons. They know what our intent is with those nuclear weapons, and their idea was, don't use them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of like what I got too.
Saving our civilization. That was their intent. So I thought that was a very interesting story.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never heard that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be, that would be the sign that I would think. Of course, sometimes they probably, we got to build more in case they do that.
Well, yeah, there's that.
That's the other side of the coin on that. But let's show something, because recently there was something that let's set this up first.
Yeah. So again, in 2017, there was a New York Times article. There was actually an interview with former Senator Harry Reid, and he admitted at the time that there was a UFO project going on for many, many, many years. And again, they were concerned with national security. That was the big thing, right? So, so the New York Times ran this article: "Were real UFOs? Pentagon unit tried to know." For those of you watching, well, anyway, you can see it online, guys who are just listening to this. But then after that, because the fighter pilots were seeing so many of these crafts, and they were told that they can now engage or kind of find out what these things are, the Pentagon released a video, or a couple of videos of these things, and the fighter pilots actually talking about them, and there's spoken word. So I'm going to play it's a minute video for those of you who are watching, and those of you who are not, you can see it on YouTube. But you hear the pilots talking, and you see in their radar the actual thing moving and twisting and turning and moving at incredible speeds, and it's just amazing. So check this out.
Show it so I can break it down, destroy it.
That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. I do have LNS, dude. Well, if there's anything, it's right.
Wow. That's
Interesting
it.
stuff, right?
Yeah, that is really interesting. Actually, I never saw the last part of that. I saw the beginning
Yeah.
part.
The couple of things strike me about that was one that the thing that looks like a spinning top in the beginning,
Yeah.
there's you look at it, there's an aura around it,
Right.
which is really weird. And the pilots, when they interviewed the pilots, they said there's no propulsion system because their radar could detect the propulsion system. So
Correct.
there was nothing propelling it.
Right.
That's number one. And number two, it would go this way and that way. And then the little one that they call Tic Tac, which was the one that was flying across the
Yeah.
water, you could see that they were having trouble trying to find it because it was going so fast.
Right.
And
Now
then
let me.
finally they
One,
got it.
was that
Yeah.
underwater? It looked like it was almost underwater.
Well, it wasn't underwater, but it was they would
Right.
literally right now what was interesting about it when one of the pilots was talking about it was that that footage of it down on top of the water was afterwards. It was in the air. And when the pilot went to engage and get close, it went phew,
Wow.
and they lost it. It went like in a split second. It went down so fast. And then that's when they found it above the water. And that's
Right.
when he was like, there it goes, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
crazy.
wild. Wild. I mean, I see the aura and all this stuff and the movements of how these things move is what it's where physics gets interesting.
Right.
Because now we're talking quantum physics and we're talking about now, see, because propulsion systems push against something. There
Right.
has to be something to push. So on Earth, there's air. So a
Right.
plane
Exactly.
flies because it pushes air very fast out. It hits air and
Right.
it goes out. It goes out. But now, if you have a technology that can actually it itself move through whatever is surrounding us, the air that's surrounding us, and manipulate that air in
Yes.
some way, through neurons and neutrons and protons and photons, and kind of like manipulate them in a way to then push. Then you can go any direction as fast as you want if you can control whatever that is over around the actual entity or whatever.
Exactly. And if I was a government, in my opinion, and I was able to create a technology like that, first of all, I create thousands of them. Okay. And
Why?
I would, well, I mean, look, thinking from the government perspective,
Sell them?
not my,
Like Tesla?
not my perspective, but thinking from the government, Defense Department, Pentagon perspective,
Right.
okay, of why they would want something like that. Why do you
Right.
think they would want that? Right? Because it's the ultimate defense. I can get my thing can get to your country in a split second and take you out.
Right.
You wouldn't even know what hit you. Okay.
Right.
So I would be, there would be an invincibility, of course, though, then that country or the other part of the world would try to get their hands on the same technology, and then
Right.
there we'd go. But
Yeah.
that's what I would think that the government would try to do in that instance.
They definitely would take that and weaponize it, because that's what the
Exactly.
government does with everything.
Of course.
All governments. I don't mean our government, and
Yeah, sure.
I don't mean to knock our government. Our government is not the government.
No, it's actually the human condition.
Right. It's individuals, and it's greed, and it's
Yes.
control, and it's certain individuals that are actually some of them are probably insane. They're probably insane. They get to a certain level of power. I've worked in government, and I've worked with people in government, and 99.99% of them are just trying to get by and trying to do the right thing for their community
Right.
and trying to help people. So it's not that. But there is the Defense Department is a completely different entity, really, when you think about it, because it's controlled by people that are afraid mostly. They're
Right.
afraid that someone else is going to get more
Correct.
power than. So if there is something like this, everyone is jumping on it. Everyone is trying to get to that point to
Right.
see who gets there first, and whoever gets there first wins the race, right?
Right.
Or at least they think they win the race, right? Because there's always some other technology that's, if you have if you have nuclear weapons and I have nuclear weapons, well, we're both equal, so now we're both gonna just be able to get to die. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly.
And what keeps us alive is the fact that we can both just kill each other because we
Right.
both have equally the same. the government or the group that gains the technology that's only going that and it's exclusive to this one person is going to pretty much control the planet.
Right. And I agree. But I think also that you're right. It's the fear. It's the ultimately at the end of the day, it's not because they want to, it's like that whole ET thing, right? When ET was here, it's that mentality of, okay, let's study him, let's control him, let's see what makes him tick. Maybe we can use that for experiments. Maybe we can use
Right.
that. That's always going to be the government's any government's mentality, if you think about it, right?
Right.
I just think that the world governments, because they all see this stuff, they cannot get it, meaning they cannot physically, we're not advanced enough, in my opinion, to catch. It's like trying to catch the fly, you know what I mean? And the
Right.
fly is just, it's very difficult to get. So there's a frustration in why these things so advanced. We can't get to them, we can't understand them, because if we could, then we can harness it and use it for something.
Correct.
But they can't do it, at least to this point.
Or we think they can't do it. Maybe they've already done it and they're just testing things out, and the poor military people that are flying those planes have no idea themselves, because they're just like seeing these things flying around, and it's just them doing their test runs because they're test running things that
I mean, there's that idea, and maybe there some of it was. I think there is a maybe a portion, or you can go back to Area 51 and test flights and all these things that could have happened. I think there may have been that, but I think it's a small portion of it, in my opinion. I think there's way too many of these things out there to think that it's just governments testing stuff.
Yeah,
But
that's true, because it's all over the world. It's not just
exactly. It's not just here.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Right. And if you start thinking about governments, like South American countries do not have the capacity financially to really put together a space program of that magnitude, something that's going to compete with like the American space program or something, and they just don't have the money. So who the hell is running it? Who the hell is down in Peru flying stuff around? So that becomes an interesting way of looking at it as well. So, well, we've gone over an hour, which is good. That's what we wanted to do.
Yes.
This is going to be sort of our format. We're not always going to obviously talk about aliens. We're going to talk about other stuff, music and film and things. And we want to get everyone engaged in what we're talking about. The conversations are always exciting and thrilling, and we appreciate everyone for tuning in this evening and helping us to try to decipher. I think we actually solved the problems of the UFO world, and I think now the world will be a better place because of this episode. So I want to thank you all for being part of this tremendous historical moment in the history of this planet, when George and I actually solved the problem and answered the mysteries behind UFOs or UAPs or a dumbass
UPS
UPS or USPA. So, but yeah, I want to thank you, everybody. ASPCA is what I was trying to say. And we will see you all again next week. We appreciate everybody's time. And this is actually an actual photo of the Pentagon right now. This is actually happening now. So in case you guys have no idea what's happening at the Pentagon, this is it right now. Go take a look and, send us your own photos. That one, I took that one myself when I was driving by. But yeah, it's really interesting stuff. And I love the subject. It's fascinating, and it's something that we're going to probably touch upon at some point in the future as well. So thank you, everybody. We love you all out there. Appreciate your support and everything. And we will see you all again next week. Same time, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check out our new website also, which we're going to talk about next week. We have a new website with some really cool features in it, and we're going to launch that. It's already launched, so you can check it out. Just go to counterpartsshow.com. But we're going to talk a little bit about it at the beginning of next week's show to show you all the cool stuff that we have on there. So Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all again next week. George, as always, pleasure.
Yes, sir.
And see you all next week. And as always, peace.